Hey, this is Taylor Momsen from The Pretty Reckless, and you are listening to Appetite for Distortion with Brando. Guns N' Roses is fucking awesome.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 246. My name is Brando. Another dual interview episode for you today. Coming up in about a half an hour, we're going to speak to Queensryche singer Todd La Torre about his debut solo album, Rejoice in the Suffering. February 5th is when it is officially released worldwide, so we're going to talk to him about that. Of course, Guns N' Roses. But first, as you heard at the beginning of the episode, I am so excited to finally get to speak to Taylor Momsen from The Pretty Reckless. She also, The Pretty Reckless, have a new album on the way. Finally, it's been delayed. What hasn't been because of, look outside, there's a pandemic. But finally, we're going to experience Death by Rock and Roll February 12th via Fearless Records. Taylor, I'm so honored to speak with you today for a variety of reasons because I'm just a fan of your music, but you have just been talking so much about this new album. Didn't you just do like a whole Q&A on, online just like a few hours ago? So are you all talked out? I hope you still got some energy to talk to me.
Talked out. Can you ever be talked out? I think I'm always talked out. No, the Q&A is actually tomorrow. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm all good. You're getting a very fresh Taylor at the moment.
Okay. You know what? Maybe that's a good place to start because I don't know what day it is. I was talking to, one of your friends.
Dude, I don't either.
I was talking to one of your friends on the other line. I'm usually going to a studio in Tribeca, but right now I'm here in Queens. I'm my own little setup here, but I'm surrounded by cats. It's different. I just don't know what day it is. So I do know the day of the new album, though. That's you like my segue into that?
No, I do like your segue, and
Thank you.
You're speaking my language right now. I'm like, I know the record release date, and that's about it.
So February 12th.
February 12th on the books, and February 12th on the books. Every other day is kind of blending into every other day. Such is the times we're living in right now.
But it's interesting because. And this is, you spoke about this at length, that you feel like, this album has taken a while. And obviously 2020 was a monkey wrench for a variety of reasons. So is it a sense of relief of just like, I can't wait for everybody to hear these songs? Or is it kind of just like a monkey off your back and be like, finally people get to hear these songs? Like what kind of spectrum are you at?
I think it's probably both. I think it's mostly excitement. I mean, I've been listening to the record for the past year at like nauseum. So I'm mostly excited that everyone's going to finally be able to hear it because I'm really, really proud of this album. I think we really created something special, and in my humble opinion, I think it might be the best album we've ever made. And so sitting on it for a year has been slightly torturous. So. I'm so excited that there's finally an actual date, and as the days kind of creep by, it's less than 2 weeks away now at this point. So or almost 2 weeks away. I don't know what's coming out, but
right, we don't know what day it is. We just know the date.
I don't know, but I know February 12th is coming out, and finally, and I'm so excited to share it with the world. I'm so proud of it. We worked so hard on it, and I can't wait to share it.
Was there any temptation, and the singles that are out now, if that's just a teaser, tip of the iceberg, because the album is shaping up to be the best that you've done, which is saying a lot considering what you've already put out. Was there any temptation to go back and tweak, or just leave it alone and just say when we're ready to promote it, this is it? Or was there any we got to go back and do this, no matter how slight,
I think that, as you always want to go back and change very minute little things. If you sit with something for too long, you start to nitpick it apart in an unhealthy way. But that just came due to the fact that, of quarantine for a year. This album was supposed to be out last year. So I think that, when we finished the record, it was, when you finish an album, it's finished. It's a complete product that you're, a complete work of art that you're extraordinarily proud of. And, it's a very kind of definitive moment when you finish a record because there is no questioning it. And I think that if you're questioning anything on it, that means it might not quite be done. So as soon as you get to that kind of headspace where you go, this is done, it's like this huge kind of weight is lifted, and it's just a really exciting moment. And that happened a year ago. So
right
now it's just been the waiting game of when everyone else can hear it. So not really. I've been I'm just really proud of it, and I've been, like I said, I've been listening to it incessantly, and I wouldn't change anything, honestly.
And I know that there's one thing that you couldn't change because it technically, I guess, wasn't yours. And I'm referring to the guitar, the solo from Tom Morello on your latest single, And So It Went. So you're just able to, you're like that with Tom, and just be like, I don't know if you tweet him, you Snapchat him, whatever, and you just say contribute to this song. Was there any? I know you guys have a history together. Was there any sort of a hesitation, I guess, to maybe go from just hey, we're friends, we'll tour, we'll do these things together, but to have him contribute musically, or it was just hey, I'll just get Tom, and there was no doubt that he was gonna help you.
Well, I mean, you never know, when reaching out to an artist, whether it's a good friend of yours or not, you never, when it's a creative collaboration, you never know what the person's going to say. I wouldn't say that there was a hesitation. I think that when first of all, I've known Tom for many years now at this point. But we really kind of reconnected a few years back at the Chris Cornell I Am the Highway tribute show, because we were both playing with Soundgarden on the song Loud Love, and that's really kind of where we reconnected or rebonded, rekindled our friendship, whatever you want to call it. And shortly after that show, we were starting to record the new record, and I had written the song And So It Went. And just due to the lyrical content and just the kind of overall vibe and energy of the song, it felt very fitting for him to be a part of it. Like it felt like it was something that was kind of very much up his alley, and I thought that he would contribute this kind of whole other element to it that would really elevate the song. And I'm not really one. I don't love collaborations in general. Like I think that especially now in today's market, it can be. I think that they can be used a lot as like a marketing tool and a marketing technique, and instead of a natural, organic musical collaboration that the song is actually asking for. And this song in particular, like it just felt like he would take it to the next level, and I couldn't hear it completed without him. Like it made so much musical sense to me, I guess. And so I sent him a demo of it. I called him up and was like, hey man, will you listen to this and see if you would want to maybe lend your voice to this, because you have such a defining sound that is unlike anyone else. I mean, I don't need to explain Tom Morello to you. Like
right.
He's one of, he's a guitar, legend, that is so undeniably him. And I just thought that his voice would contribute so much. And, he took a listen and he said, absolutely, I'd love to be a part of this. And, when he sent back his tracks, and when we put the whole thing together, it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. Like he just comes in screaming and wailing like Tom Morello, and only Tom Morello can. And it just heightened the song to its full potential. And, I think the song itself is kind of a straightforward rock song, but if you weren't already cranking it to 10 by the time he comes in, you're certainly turning the dial up on your radio or whatever you're listening to.
Yeah,
so I got to thank him for that. He really took it to the next level, and he comes in with full force.
Right on. And I like your viewpoint toward collaboration, that it should come from an organic place. And since you guys have a relationship, even though it's done in the modern age where, people are sending it Pro Tools and all that, there's still an emotion tied to it. And you can hear that in the song. There's something that
absolutely. I think that that's so important, that I think that, the way that, the kind of the press stunt aspect of it, like, I wanted him to be on the song, whether he wanted his name featured on it or not. I was like, we don't have to feature you, like whatever, like I just want your voice on this, because I think that it's all song driven, like it all starts with song. And if there's another musician that's outside of, our band that could take that song to its full potential, then I'm going to at least make the phone call and, attempt to make that happen. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it's, you know, in this case, it obviously did. But it's not about name recognition or anything like that. It's about really fulfilling the song and making the song as good as possible. If that makes sense. It
does. It would have been great if, you know, he could obviously contributed, but he decided to contribute and just didn't want his name on there, but used a really bad alias, like Shmam, Shmerel, something really bad. I don't know. Maybe that was funny. It was funnier in my head.
Or no alias.
It was funnier in my head.
Or no alias. I mean, look at My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles. Like,
You're
it
right.
doesn't say featuring on it.
You're right.
But, you know, everyone knows who's playing on it.
A better analogy.
You know, that's the kind of voice that I love in music and musicians that I look up to, is where they really kind of have they have such an identity in their playing that you don't even have to put their name next to it. Anyone who knows anything is going to hear it and go, that's Tom Morello, and that's awesome.
You're right. And that's exactly what I heard. What I said to myself the first time I heard it, and so it went. You mentioned something that I do want to speak about, because one of the themes of this podcast, I other than maybe the obvious, and we'll get to that, the Appetite for Distortion GNR theme, but I often talk about mental health. I spoke about it last episode with Sean Dowdell of Great Days about Chester Bennington. And, you know, you spoke about the Chris Cornell ceremony, and, you know, obviously it hit everybody, you know, hard, but it was on a personal note, and I told this, most of my listeners know, and I told Sean this, that my dad passed away in similar fashion just a few years prior. So it's interesting.
I'm very sorry.
And thank you. And I'm very sorry for the loss of your friend. So, you know, you've been you're welcome. And you've been very outspoken about that. And one thing that gets lost as somebody who, and I'm talking about myself, who is a family member, because I lost my dad. I have lost friends to suicide. I'm still in therapy, you know, going through my own things. But it's important to see who's around you and how they're affected. So I want to say thank you to how open you've been, you know, about your experiences after Chris. So I guess if you can, you know, maybe elaborate more about the song, because I think I'm wondering if it's therapeutic, and this is where it's going to the new album, Only Love Can Save Me Now, right, where you collaborated with Kim and Matt from Soundgarden. So I guess I want to know if that was cathartic. Was that like kind of a therapeutic experience? Was that just strictly about the music? Because, you know, as somebody who's gone through what you're going through in a way, it's hard. It's hard to go back on the mic. You know, I went back on the air like 5 days after. I knew if I didn't, I would never return. You know, so if you can talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very loaded question.
I know.
I'm not exactly sure where to begin. I mean, obviously, the loss of Chris was extraordinarily devastating to me, you know, as it was the entire, you know, music community and music world. It was you know, it's tragic. And it came as a huge shock, you know, as any situation like that. And I mean, I guess I kind of just have to go through my like little rigmarole spiel here, but you know, it was, when I found out the news, I was, you know, devastated is kind of an understatement of the term. I was in utter shock. I thought, I was convinced that everyone was lying to me and it was just some kind of like sick joke. And it took a while to actually kind of sink in. And, you know, we were in the middle of a touring cycle at the time. And, we played a few shows after that, but, you know, I kind of came to the conclusion that I was not in a great place to be public, and that getting on stage every night and, you know, as you said, like going back to the microphone and getting on stage every night and you know, trying to perform an entertaining show for fans that are, you know, so deserving of the world, and they're deserving of, you know, my full attention and me at my best. And I was not. I was just very unemotionally prepared for that kind of trauma and that kind of shock. And I came to the realization that I was not in a good place to be public, and that this was unfair to the fans, and I needed some time. So I canceled everything and I went home and just to try to, you know, process and grieve in my own time. And as soon as I started to kind of wrap my head around everything and put my feet back on the ground or whatever, I started to write a few songs, get back on the horse or whatever stupid analogy you want to throw in there. I was calling our producer Kato and asked, going, hey, we need to move forward. Like, I have these songs. I don't know if they're for a record or what they're for exactly or anything, but, we got to do something. So let's get in the studio. And as soon as we kind of started to put those plans in motion, I got the phone call that Kato had died in a motorcycle accident. And that was like, is the nail in the coffin for me, where it was just very like, 1-2 punch very quickly of losing, an idol, a friend, and then losing our producer and my best friend in the whole world. And, Kato was so much more than just a producer. I mean, he was essentially the fifth member of the band who just didn't tour with us. There would be no Pretty Reckless if I had never met Kato. And so that took me into a very downward, just very dark spiral of this kind of hole of blackness of depression and substance abuse and everything that comes along with grief and loss and trauma and all of that. And it was, it's a very, very dark period in my life, I guess. And I wasn't, I think the scariest part about it was that I wasn't sure if I could get out of it. And I wasn't sure if, the bigger thing was, I wasn't sure if I wanted to. I think that was kind of the scariest thing is I'd become very content in being numb and kind of fading into nothing. And, anyway, sorry, I just got very heavy. My point is, mental health is something that is, I'm very glad that it's become a subject of, a topic that is being talked about now, because, I think there has been so much like taboo around it, where it's just, when speak about it, and now that it's become, kind of part of the nomenclature of society and people are speaking about it, I think that can only be good. So anyway, to make a very long story short, I mean, from my own personal experience, the way that I kind of pulled myself out of it was through music. As cliche as that may sound, I've always said that music is like my best friend. It's the thing that I've always been able to turn to in times of great happiness and in times of great strife. And it's always there for me. Like, it's always supported me and it's never let me down. And, I went through a period there where I couldn't listen to music. Everything was too painful. Everything brought back a memory that I wasn't ready to handle. But eventually I hit the point where I needed it. Like I needed food, I needed water, I needed music, because it's the thing that feeds my soul and like keeps me going. And so I started at the beginning. I started by listening to the Beatles. I kind of asked myself, I was like, what made you fall in love with music in the first place? And the answer was the Beatles. It's, it's the first band I ever heard. It's the first band I fell in love with. They're the reason I started writing songs when I was very young. And so I started there. I started at the beginning, and I kind of rebuilt myself through music and through the records that I grew up loving, and almost kind of re-educating myself again. So it almost felt like I was being reborn through the records that I grew up with. So, I started with the Beatles, and then went into Led Zeppelin and The Who, and then Pink Floyd and Bob Dylan and Neil Young and Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton. And eventually that led to me being able to listen to Soundgarden again and and having that bring me joy, which led to me picking up a guitar, which, everything kind of leads
step by step
into the next thing, which, step by step, baby steps. And it led to me picking up a guitar, which the natural step after that of just starting to play music again, just for the fun of it, led to me writing, which led to this kind of outpouring of this album, I guess. Like, I didn't have to try to write this record. It just kind of poured out of me whether I wanted it to or not. Like, I don't think I even really had a choice in the matter. And Only Love Can Save Me Now was one of those songs. And it was one of the songs that is written fairly early in the writing process, but it was actually one of the last songs we recorded for the album. Because it was something that I needed to kind of take my time with, I think. Like every song has its own journey, and that one I needed to kind of sit with in order to kind of see it to its full potential. And, when I finished writing it, I called Matt and Kim, and I had become, relatively close over, those years and, you know, everything we all went through together and separately and whatever, we became very good friends. And I called them and was like, I sent them a demo and was like, would you guys want to play on this? Like, I think that you got your unique voice that is unlike anyone else would really take this song and make it something extraordinarily special. You know, and the song itself is something that I really worked incredibly hard on and I love, but I really think that you guys would take it to its full potential. And, you know, they listened and they said yes. And to make a full, I'm so rambling right now, so I'm sorry. But
it's okay.
To make a long story short, it was a fantastic experience. I mean, it was one of the last songs we recorded, but, you know, we did it. We flew to Seattle. We did it in Seattle. We did it at London Bridge Studios, which is where Soundgarden made Louder Than Love, and Pearl Jam recorded 10, and Alice in Chains made Dirt. And, you know, that was just, I don't want to speak for them because that's not my place, but for me, it was this very kind of full circle moment. Everything we've been through, to be in that studio and in that space together again, creating something new, at least for me, was this very beautiful full circle moment that was just absolutely incredible. And that song turned out to be, you know, it's certainly one of my favorite songs on the record by far, and I can't wait for people to hear it. So there's my little 15-minute wrap up or 15-second wrap up.
And that's all right, because I ask you, and apologies for the loaded question, because I know I only have you for a certain amount of time, but, you know, just from, you know, Brandon to Taylor, I wanted to thank you for speaking out about it, what you went through, and what you just spoke about just now. The process of being dark, and it's reflected in songs like 25, which people can hear right now, and the step by step to get to a good place. And I've had to go step by step, and I'll wrap by saying, because now I'm in a good place, because I'm on the phone with Taylor Momsen, and I want to, ask you before you get out of here. There's a picture of you with Axl Rose, where he looks like as much as a fanboy as I am right now, just very giddy. So can you tell us, maybe, is there any backstory behind that photo or any fun stories about touring with them? Because I was going to ask you, because you alluded to this earlier in the interview, you know, to get Slash mixed in with the Pretty Reckless, I would love to hear a duet with you and Axl, if it comes organically, of course, you know.
Well, I'm assuming, I think there's a lot of like Photoshop pictures of us together, but there is one that is real, which was taken at a Paris club, while we were on tour with them. And he was doing a very like acoustic stripped back underplay show in Paris that we were, you know, fortunate enough to go to. And he was just phenomenal. Touring with Axl and Guns N' Roses, it was great. What legends, and like to watch him perform every night and not miss a step. That guy, he's so good. It was incredible. And we were supposed, before the pandemic happened, we were supposed to be doing it again. We were supposed to, in 2020, we were supposed to be opening for Guns N' Roses again. And I was very much looking forward to that. So, hopefully that will come back around when touring comes back around. Because it was a great experience the first time. And, now that Guns N' Roses is actually like a reformed, full unit again with all the original, or most of the original members, Slash and Axl, are back together. That was going to be something I was very much looking forward to, and I hope that tour actually does come to fruition in the future. Because it was a great time the first time, and it can only get better from there. So
I'm excited. I think that I might have to go all out and buy like a front row ticket for that, because my GNR Smashing Pumpkins tickets were canceled because of the pandemic. But now add Pretty Reckless to that, I might have to see 2 GNR shows next time. Thank you again, Taylor.
Hey, can you ever see Guns N' Roses too many times? So
no, you can't. Same thing with because I've yet to see the Pretty Reckless, but whenever I've gotten a chance to play you on the radio, I've certainly played the hell out of you. So February 12th, a date I can remember. Thank you so much, Taylor. I hope we get to do this again.
No, absolutely. Thanks so much, Brando.
That was so much fun.